Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics. Christos Anesti, Christ is risen. On April 22nd, we commemorate St. Theodore of Sykeon, St. Nathaniel, St. Luke, and St. Clement the Apostles, St. Gregory Gravanos of Nisyros, and St. Nisyros the Martyr. Today, we commemorate Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene, Martyrs of Lesbos, who appeared on Bright Tuesday. Regarding Saints Raphael, Nicholas, and Irene, and the other newly revealed martyrs of Lesbos. On the island of Mytilene, Lesbos in ancient times, near the village of Thermi, the villagers had a custom of ascending a certain hill on this day to celebrate the divine liturgy in the ruins of a small chapel, although no one knew whence this tradition had sprang, that being on Bright Tuesday, the Tuesday after Pascha. In the year 1959, certain villagers began seeing persons who spoke to them, first in dreams, then awake, both by day and by night. Through these wondrous appearances, which were given to many people independently, the holy martyrs Raphael, archimandrite of the ancient monastery, and Nicholas, his deacon, together with other saints who had been martyred on the island, told the villagers the whole account of their martyrdom, which had taken place at the hand of the Muslim Turks 10 years after the fall of Constantinople in 1463. The 12-year-old Irene had been tortured, then burned alive in a large earthenware jar in the presence of her parents. On Tuesday Renewal week, that is Bright Week, St. Raphael had been tied to a tree and his head sawn off through his jaws. St. Nicholas had died at the sight of this. Although the feast is celebrated today because it is the day of their martyrdom, through the appearances of the saints as living persons 500 years after their martyrdom, it is also a singular testimony to the resurrection of Christ. While their feast takes place on April 9th, it is commemorated always on Bright Tuesday. On Lesbos you strove in contest for the sake of Christ God. You also have hallowed her with the discovery of your relics, O blessed ones. O God-bearer Raphael, with you we all honor Nicholas the deacon and Irene the chaste virgin as our divine protectors, who now intercede with the Lord. You shone on the world like stars, first as ascetics, then as athletes slain for Christ, and were translated to the heights to the great torments that you endured, and them that praise you and keep and protect, O saints. Regarding St. Theodore the Sykeon, St. Theodore was born out of wedlock in Sykeon, a village of Galatia in Asia Minor. From his childhood, he was under the protection and guidance of the holy great martyr George, who often appeared to him, and was, as it were, his trainer in the hard ascetical discipline which he took upon himself all his life. After a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, he became a monk in his native Galatia. About 584, he was ordained bishop of Anastasiopolis in Galatia, where he shepherded his flock for 10 years. After this, he asked to be allowed to be relieved of the duties of governing the diocese. His request was granted, but he was commanded to retain his rank of bishop. St. Theodore was a great worker of miracles, and also received from God the power to cast out even the most obstinate demons, who called him Iron Eater, because of his stern way of life. Having passed through many regions and worked numerous miracles and strengthened the faithful in piety, he departed this life in 613. Since thou hast been known from the swaddling bands to be sanctified, and hast been shown to be filled with graces, thou didst illumine the world with miracles, and didst drive off swarms of demons, O sacred minister Theodore, wherefore do thou beseech the Lord in our behalf. As thy fiery chariot, thou didst ascend on the virtues, O God-bearer, mounting up unto the dwellings of heaven, and thou wast an angel living on earth among men, and a man dancing for joy with the holy angels. Hence, O Theodore, thou hast proved a godly vessel of awesome wonders and signs. From the Acts of the Apostles. In those days, Peter, standing with the 11, lifted up his voice and addressed them. Men of Judea, and all who dwell in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and give ear to my word. For these men are not drunk as you suppose, since it is only the 3rd hour of the day. So because the disciples are speaking in tongues, those that are of faith are hearing them in their own words, and they don't understand what is happening. So they wonder, are they drunk? What's going on? But Peter said it's only the third hour, which means it's 9 a.m. It is not the time for drinking at 9 o'clock in the morning. But this is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. And in the last days it shall be, God declares that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Yea, and on my menservants and my maidservants in those days I will pour out my spirit, and they shall prophesy. To prophesy means to speak on behalf of God, to have God speak to you and you utter it out. And I will show wonders in the heaven above and signs on the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the days of the Lord comes, the great and manifest day. And it shall be that whoever calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved. These prophecies were fulfilled. The sun was darkened when Jesus Christ was on the cross for the 3 hours. And so these great signs are manifesting to show that Jesus Christ has come, and all who call upon his name will be saved. From the Gospel according to St. Luke. At that time, Peter rose and ran to the tomb. Stooping and looking in, he saw the linen cloths by themselves, and he went home, wondering at what had happened. That very day, 2 of them were going to a village named Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing together, Jesus himself drew near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. Now, it must be noted that both Cleopas and Luke, who are the 2 men walking here, knew Jesus Christ. They're among the 70. And so it is not as if they did not know Jesus or had interactions with him. And even though they were not part of the 12, but part of the 70, they still had daily dealings with the Lord. They knew who the Lord was. The fact that Jesus is unrecognizable to them is on purpose, and we will see why in just a moment. And he said to them, "What is this conversation which you are holding with each other as you walk?" And they stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, named Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there in these days?" And he said to them, "What things?" And they said to him, "Concerning Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God, and all the people, and how our chief priests and rulers delivered him up to be condemned to death, and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since this happened. Moreover, some women of our company amazed us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. And they came back, saying that they had even seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but him they did not see." And he said to them, "O foolish men, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Now imagine that. Jesus Christ is giving St. Luke and St. Cleopas a Bible study. You could not ask for a better teacher. He is unlocking every prophecy about himself. St. Nectarios, in his masterwork Christology, posits that there are over 400 individual prophecies about Jesus Christ, and he is unlocking them on their walk. And so they drew near to the village to which they were going. He appeared to be going further, but they constrained him, saying, "Stay with us, for it is towards evening, and the day is now far spent." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at table with them, he took the bread and blessed and broke it and gave it to them. This is symbolic of the mystical supper in which Jesus Christ takes the bread, breaks it, and says, "This is my body." So what is he doing? He is symbolizing
communion, the Holy Eucharist. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished out of their sight. Now this is important because notice, he did not appear to them, he was not recognizable to them during the Bible study, during the time that he was unlocking things, in which it would be scholarly interpretation of Jesus Christ. No, it is in the sacramental reality, meaning that we experience and know Christ through his holy mysteries more than the intellectual exercise of exploring and studying Christ. This is extremely important because it means that regardless of our aptitude for education, we can know Christ. This is why it is possible for someone that has extreme learning disabilities or is developmentally handicapped, and yet they are able to have just as much, if not more, communion and an understanding of who Jesus Christ is than someone that just reads about Christ. They said to each other, "Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked to us on the road, while he opened to us the scriptures?" Meaning that learning about Christ is good. That doesn't mean that we should not study scripture, that we should not study theology. It burns within us. It lights a fire inside of us. But that is not true knowledge. That is excitement. That is something that we can use. But it is through the mysteries, it is through Holy Communion, the sacrament of sacraments, the mystery of mysteries, that we truly know Christ. The Orthodox faith is an experiential religion. And they rose that same hour and returned to Jerusalem. And they found the 11 gathered together, and those who were with them, who said, "The Lord has risen indeed, and has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road, and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread.
I hope that you've enjoyed today's Spiritual Calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.